Okay, this is lesson 12.5. We are not going over anything new. This is going to cover everything that we have done thus far in Unit 12, all the way back to 12.1. We're just going to wrap it all up and do it together. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the warm-ups, pause the video, and then compare your answers to see if you got the right answer. Okay, there's the answer for number 1. 3x minus 2 times x plus 2. The steps that I used to do it are right here. If you didn't get that answer, please look at the steps, see if you can find your mistake. I'm not going to go over number 2. However, you are going to need to know how to do this. The formula to find slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, on to today's lesson. All right. 12.1. What did we do in 12.1? We factored. We factored out what everything had in common. So I told you list the multiple or list your numbers. Oops, we didn't do negatives on this lesson. And then go ahead and list your multiples and find the greatest common multiple. I also told you a shortcut, didn't I? What was the shortcut? If the smallest number goes into the other numbers, that's your greatest common factor. Will 2 go into 4? Will 2 go into 6? That's your greatest common factor. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. Now, do all 3 of these numbers have an x? No. So I cannot factor out an x. I can only factor out a 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, which leaves me x squared. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and my x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Keep the negative sign. Okay, I factored out the 2. However, am I done factoring? No, because you see the x squared here? This x squared tells you you're not done. You can still factor more. Now, I put the 1 here on purpose because you see how I went from a leading coefficient of 2 to a leading coefficient of 1. Yesterday, we taught you how to factor a trinomial when your leading coefficient was not 1. But today, after I factor something out, my leading coefficient is 1. So now I just factor just like I taught you how to factor a trinomial at first. 2 parentheses, x, x. I now need 2 things that multiply to negative 3 but add up to positive 2. Because 3 is negative, it's going to be negative 1 times 3. Or 1 times negative 3. Negative 1 times 3 adds up to positive 2. 1 times negative 3 adds up to negative 2. I want positive 2. That's my answer. So now I go negative 1 minus 3. This is supposed to be times, not a negative sign. And this is the last and most important step. I have to bring the 2 I factored down in front of those 2 binomials. All I'm doing is factoring something out, okay, if I can, and then factoring my remaining trinomial into 2 binomials. Either by doing this method or doing the method we learned yesterday. Okay? Nothing new. Let's look at number 5. Pause the video, do number 5, and then check your answer. Okay, so you should have your answer. Let's see what I get. So kids, what can I factor out of this trinomial? What number do they all have in common? I can factor out a 7. Is there anything else I can factor out?
X.
Yes, I can factor out an x. All 3 of them have an x, so I can take the x out. If you don't take the x out, you're going to end up with x cubed plus 2x squared plus x. And you guys don't know how to factor when you have x cubed. So 7x comes out, leaving me x squared plus 2x plus 1. 7x times plus 1, plus 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. That's your answer.
Do you have to put it like at the second one, like how you have the one?
This one right here?
Yeah.
Yes. This right here, this 7 right here, has to be in front of that binomial or it is wrong. Why? Because when I factor this back out, x times x, x squared. X times 1 plus 1x. 1 times x plus 1x. 1 times 1 plus 1. That right there, x squared plus 2x plus 1 does not equal my original problem, and that's what I'm trying to get back to. So I have to multiply this by 7x. That now gives me 7x cubed plus 14x squared plus 7x. This is my original problem. That's why that has to be right there. Okay? Okay, pause the video. Everybody do number 8 and then start the video up again. Okay, here we go for number 8. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is there a number I can take out of both? Will a number go evenly into 2 and 32? Yeah, 2 will. Now, do both of those numbers have an x? No, so I can only take out 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1x squared minus 16. You can't. If you want to, you can do 2. Now I'm just going to go x squared plus 0x minus 16 because that's what's in the middle here. I have 0 x's. So what I need is I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 16 but add up to 0. So first hour, the girl came up here. She had no idea what to do. So this is what she did. 1 times negative 16, negative 1 times positive 16. This is the way, if you don't know, this is the way to do it. This equals negative 15, this equals positive 15. Then I go to 2. 2 times negative 8, negative 2 times positive 8. This equals negative 6, this equals positive 6. 3 doesn't go on the 16 evenly. 4 times negative 4, oh, that's it. That gives me, that multiplies to give me negative 16 and adds up to 0. So my answer is 2 times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Okay, let's look at number 10. Go ahead and try number 10, and then start the video. Okay, let's see how you did. 5 is common to all 3 of these numbers. That is the greatest common factor. If I didn't know that, I would have to list my multiples. There's one on the homework that everybody just wants to factor 2 out. Okay? Well, there's a greater common multiple than 2, and that screws you up when you can't factor the greatest one out. So anyways, I got 5 here. This gives me 2x squared minus 7x plus 6. Now, I ask you, is your leading coefficient 1? No, your leading coefficient is not 1. So to factor this, you have to multiply a times c. That gives me 12. So, multiply a times c. Now, I'm going to list my multiples because I want my multiples, multiply a times c, and then multiples must equal 12, in this case 12, but add up to negative 7, okay? They have to equal 12 and add up to negative 7. So I know 1 and 12 isn't going to work. I also know something else. because they have to add up to a negative number, are two positive numbers going to work to give you a negative number when you add? I'm going to need two negatives, right? So 2 and 6. What do 2 and 6 give you? -8. What about 3 and 4? -3 times -4. Does that multiply to give you positive 12? And does it add up to -7? That's my answer. So now I have 5 times x minus 3 times x minus 4. Now the next thing I do is divide by a. Divide my multiples. Divide my multiples. Divide the multiples by a. So that means this gets divided by 2. I use this a right here after I factored. That gets divided by 2, that gets divided by 2. So my answer is 5 times 2x minus 3 times x minus 2. There's my answer. Because my final step is reduce fraction denominator in front of x, numerator behind your plus or your minus sign. Okay, if you're watching this online and you have any questions, as always, please feel free to come in and ask. Have a nice day. Everybody says, everybody didn't say that, bye-bye.